Okay, today on the podcast, I'm joined by Justin Gordon, founder of the LA Grind. Pretty newish local media kind of startup in the LA area, obviously. And we spoke last week and had a really good conversation. So I asked Justin, I combined your name there. Asked Justin to come on.
Always
So
happens.
great to talk to you again, man. Good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking local newsletters, so I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so just for the audience, if you could just give us a little background on your kind of career and what led up to, the LA Grind, and we can dig into that in a minute.
Yeah, so the last few years, LA Grind has been the main thing only for about 4 months. Before that, I was running Just Go Grind full time for the last about 2 years. It's a media company in their newsletter, kind of featuring these like deep dives on world-class founders. So I write them, took like 40 to 50 hours per deep dive as one newsletter, very different thing. And then I spent about 2.5 years prior to that at a venture capital firm called Vitalize, where I led marketing and community, so building an angel investing community to a few hundred people, and then the marketing side, just driving growth of deals for the firm, brand for the firm, etc. And that was after getting my MBA at USC. And before that, I was at an e-commerce company, and right out of college was basically a personal trainer. I always had this fitness background, so I have a very winding journey to get to this point, and that's been the theme throughout, but always kind of driven by impact, driven by community, and this mixture of like content and community is what I love. And also I've done about almost 400 podcast interviews as well through Just Go Grind, interviewing founders and investors and operators.
Very cool. I'm actually I made a note of that when we talked last week to go start, because you have quite a catalog to listen to. I have not started yet, but I'm going to do that.
Yeah. There's tons.
That's interesting. A lot of the people I have on here come from like a journalism background, because it's about local media, which the majority is still like traditional media outlets, and yours is kind of a newer, different like newsletter and events kind of business. So it's cool having somebody from a different, coming from different industries and everything. So how did you get so interested in like a local thing? Can you tell us about the origins of the LA Grind?
Yeah. So I did probably a few dozen events last year in Los Angeles because I was writing this newsletter. So I said, Just Go Grind, basically 40, 50 hours a week of just writing and researching for these deep dives. So it'd be like a 3,000 to 6,000 word deep dive on one founder every week. And I'm way too extroverted to just do that. So I started hosting way more events. Was like, let's have this combination of, yes, I'll be writing a bunch, but eventually I want to get together with people. So I did hikes, I did coffee meetups, we did poker games, I hosted a founder retreat, like all these different things last year. And then this year, as I had tailed them down towards the end of the year, the holidays, took a break. Then this year, at the beginning of 2025, we had like the wildfires in Los Angeles, had a personal thing as well. And so it kind of ramped up slowly this year. And I was already interested in kind of these events and bringing people together. And one of the things I wanted though was a bit more distribution for the events and kind of figuring out, okay, well, if you have distribution in a local area, could you then build an interesting business off of that where you have this combination of media plus community? And then I saw a few different local newsletters. Actually, Ethan, who I was just talking to prior to this from the Austin Business Review, I'd seen his local newsletter. I had seen another few actually, and I saw this community of newsletters on like Twitter, people talking about local newsletters. Then I went to Newsletter Marketing Summit. That was probably in February of this year. Talked to someone else about local newsletters, TJ Larkin, actually, a local newsletter insider. And I just was like, I think the combination of a business focus, startup focus with local is going to crush. And I have experience running like meta ads to grow media companies. So I know the cost per email subscriber for a newsletter like Just Go Grind. And I had heard that local was way cheaper because it's a smaller area as well. So I knew this kind of combination of, I'm going to monetize through events. I want to bring community together. The acquisition cost is going to be way lower. And then the actual newsletter content itself is a mixture of, I knew I was going to curate events, and I knew I was going to have like venture deals and like highlight different founders in the city. And so it all kind of came together because in May, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do directionally for Just Go Grind. And I was like, even though I don't have time right now, I'm just going to launch this thing and get it out there and see what happens. And so I launched it with 54 subscribers, had the format figured out. It hasn't changed much since, and kind of been cranking out and growing ever since.
That's great. It's like I said before, a lot of the people on here are from traditional media, and they're looking at events or, getting into them, or different kind of like revenue. So you came from a kind of a different angle of starting with the events and leaning into the local kind of media aspect of driving traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty big student of media though, in general. So across all different kind of vectors. And so there's a There's a book called The Newspaper Man, about Cy Newhouse, which is founder of Advanced Publications. They owned at one point in time, it's like 20 or 30 newsletters. They're massive now. They own a bunch of magazines and all of that. And I'd seen how he monetized as well. It's like always advertising as a starting point. And so I knew for like a local media company, it's like obviously that's the core of it in journalism. And he kind of separated journalism from the business side. He always ran the business side while you had other people who were running the journalist side, and you basically just didn't touch the actual media side of it. I like to be in the weeds a bit more on figuring out what's good media in terms of what will get people in, what gets people reading, what keeps people there. But I also like the business side of it, where it's like, well, what are unique ways you can monetize where it just makes sense for the audience? And so I like kind of the combination of those things. And I've just been a student to kind of pay attention to what ways you can. But I've seen all the Substacks and people doing paid subscriptions. I've seen all the different ways of events or doing services. And I'm kind of finding my footing now with a mixture of events and sponsorships, but also like I launched a membership a month or two ago, and that's been growing too. So happy diving into any of that. But I love the student of the game in terms of business of media and like community. It's my jam.
Yeah, well, you talked about, what keeps people coming back and actually like engaging in it and everything. Could you talk a little bit about kind of maybe like the format of the newsletter or how it appears? I've got it pulled up here, but if you could explain for listeners, yeah.
I knew from the beginning that, especially in a city like Los Angeles, it's the third or fourth largest startup city in the US. It has, obviously, like it's very spread out from geographically. So it's interesting because there's like all these little pockets of sorts. So I knew the core was going to be, let me curate all the events for startups I think are most relevant every week. And so that's always the top of the newsletter is events come first. That's like the core piece of the newsletter is what are the events happening in the city? Mostly for like the startup community. So business/startups. And from there, it's a mixture of, I've done that as a starting point. Feature venture deals. So what are the deals being like, what founders have raised capital already? There's always opportunities. So like what jobs I think are interesting. So I scour different job boards and different places to be like, here's 5 as an example. And then there's a mixture of like living in LA, I call it. It's like always the last section where it's just like, what's a local restaurant that I think is good, I've either been to or have heard about. And then what are some more fun events that are non-startup related that I just think people should go to? And I've mixed in other sections over time, but I think the core of it is like the events piece of it and what events are happening. The opportunities, I had people, literally had someone reach out last week that, hey, I applied to this job you posted. Are you getting kickback? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just doing that for the fun right now, but like eventually I will, but I think it's helpful. I'm just trying to think of if I'm a founder or an operator or an investor in a city, what content do I want to consume? And I tailor the newsletter for that.
That's awesome. I've been to LA a number of times. I've never lived there or anything, but I've frequently heard it described as not so much of a city, but like a collection of neighborhoods that are just kind of like, kind of in this big kind of valley or whatever you want to call it. And, it's shown in, popular media so much, shows, TV and everything. You get kind of a feel for it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel very lucky as well. Like I use Beehive for my newsletter. So I don't know if anyone in media uses like these different platforms, but I use their welcome survey. So when someone signs up for the newsletter, they can fill out a survey. So I have an idea of what neighborhood they're in, if they're a founder, if they're an investor, if they're an operator or a student or whatever. And I know the type of events they want to attend because I already asked them there. I know all this data immediately. And so I know from neighborhood perspective, like most of the startup scene in general, if you think about startups in Los Angeles or on the west side, Santa Monica, Venice, like those areas. But in my newsletter, it's like, that's only like 10% or 15% of like the whole newsletter. And I know people are all over the city. And these are all people who are also founders, are investors. They're in Pasadena, they're in Glendale, they're in downtown LA, they're in West Hollywood, they're in Beverly Hills, they're in the Valley, they're in South Bay. They're all over the city. And that is important for me to know for both like the events piece as like the core of it, but also even as I look at sponsorships, I know people are in different locations. Like it helps for finding the right advertisers as well.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you could dig into that a bit. You said you started this as like an events business and, launched kind of the newsletter to support that. I was wondering if you could walk me through the mechanics of that, like how you're monetizing, like start, with that, with the events. And then if there's any other cash levers you're pulling or any other revenue streams.
Yeah.
And
there's a few different things in terms of like how I view it and like what I've done so far. So the starting point is I used free events as like the top of funnel early days, like last year, for instance. And then I still use free events as like, for instance, like we go on hikes every month or two for a startup community. It's free. People get exercise, but then they meet interesting people. What ends up happening is they either find the newsletter through that or I have my events on Luma so they can discover it through there. Or those people end up becoming paid subscribers of the membership I have, or they end up coming to an event that's ticketed where they pay a ticket price, or an event they come to in the future is sponsored. So like the events are sponsored, some are ticketed, some are not. There's a membership where they're paying like 29 bucks a month. It's going to go up soon, but they're paying a set amount per month. Essentially, they're getting access to a certain number of events, like 2+ that are just for members, but they also get either free access to other events, or they just get access in general to an event that's oversubscribed, or like too many people trying to get in. They already get a ticket because they're a member. So I try to mix it in between ticket prices I'm getting monetization wise, ticket prices, sponsorships, and then memberships. Those are like the three things. But like if I look at sponsorships, it's not only of events, it's also of the newsletter. So what I'm doing now, as I've gotten 4+ months in, is I'm packaging those deals where then the sponsors are getting access to both the newsletter and they're getting access to an event. So like we're recording this in October of 2025. In 2026, like I'm already starting to sell packages for the entire year of 2026 because I feel like I've proved out enough of good events, people attend, sponsors get value from it, they're repeat sponsors, and now it's selling them on a bigger deal so I can kind of plan ahead to do bigger stuff for next year.
And what are the events like? I know it's the business community in LA, the startup community, founders, investors, etc. Like give me an example of like 2 or 3 of them, like recent ones that you've done.
I'll give you an example of a few. I like to do a variety because to me, it's like if it's just fun and something you want to do anyways, it's going to be more likely that people will come. So like, that is very much so driven by a friend of mine is like a Series B founder who's raised a bunch of capital. He was always like, yeah, at the level he's at, like he gets invited to everything. He gets invited to all different events all the time. He'll go to stuff that is just fun for him anyways. That's the main thing. So I look at it as LA is a big city. It's spread out. You have diversification across not only the type of event, but the geography. So as an example, we did a rooftop mixer at a house in Venice, this like multi-million-dollar place because of connections in Venice for like 100 some people. That was sponsored. As an example, it was a free ticket sponsored, fully sponsored. That was like people just had a good experience. I could invite people I wanted to, but also always have it where people request to join and you can approve them. So depending on who the sponsor is, I can kind of dictate who attends. But then also I just had a like 6-person breakfast for my members where we just split the cost, but like they're getting access to these events where other founders and operators are there where they get access. So it's interesting for them because they want to meet other people. But also I do a monthly mixer that's about 40 people at this place in Santa Monica that from the logistics standpoint as like an operator, it has good logistics because it's easy. It's just a bar minimum. It's not crazy expensive. And like the tickets alone cover the cost and sponsors I get for that are profit. That's how I view the event. But I also, because I view this thing holistically, but what do I want to do as well that other people want to do? We played basketball before, we've played paddle before, like we've gone on all sorts of events where just to bring people together. Like I just had a sponsor sign up today to sponsor a Rams game, LA Rams game for 20 founders. Like I'm just trying to make it different and unique to the city and give people outlets to connect because they don't want to just do the same thing. Some people who go to a mixer in Santa Monica, they'll never want to go to some event in Pasadena that's like a breakfast thing. They just will never do that. But to me, I know my audience is all across the city. I'm happy to put that on for different pockets because overall, I think it grows the community in a better way where I have those connections to everybody.
Yeah, that's great. And just, connecting people in real life, it's like you said, stuff they actually want to do. It's something that especially social media fails pretty miserably at and people are craving, I think, these days. I love the idea that you mentioned a few times of the hiking. That's just such a, like in my brain, stereotypically LA thing too.
It's
Just
so
like,
LA.
I think there's 2 shows I watched in the last year. I watched Shrinking with Jason Segel. You watched that? And the other one with Kristen Bell, where she's dating the rabbi.
I know what you're talking about.
Nobody wants. Yeah, they're always just like hiking, and I shouldn't speak. I'm in Western Colorado. It's beautiful here. I hike a lot too, but it's just such like a cliched thing in my mind. It's funny.
Well, I mean, everyone, like, depending on what location they're in, there always are things that are specific to their geography, their region that they can do. I'm just like, okay, well, it's nice out all the time in Los Angeles. It's literally 1.5 miles, I think, from my apartment. And I'm like, cool, it's like really easy to do. And the other events are like, I want to play basketball anyways. Paddle was the first time I ever played paddle, but it was fun. I was like, let's do something fun. We played poker a few times as well. Like last time we played was this, again, very stereotypical LA. It's like a house in the hills with a nice view playing poker. Like it was great, like sponsored event. People had a free ticket. It was just for founders. And that to me is a thing where, okay, not only can you like monetize that through these sponsorships, having sponsors, like I said, across the newsletter and the events, but then those people are people who have now become members. They're paying a monthly fee to be a member. Maybe they eventually join like a premium membership. Maybe they end up sponsoring something because they're like, wait, can we do an event for my ICP of my customer? Because I know you have access to these people. And that's already starting to happen. And so it's getting very interesting because it's like this compounding effect of relationships where it's not just like, it's not just the newsletter. It's like I've literally just talked to these people. So like the replies I get to newsletter, it's like every week I get a ton of replies because they've met me in person. They've like seen it. It's just a strong relationship where if I look at this extrapolated out to like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's like the newsletter keeps growing, use ads to grow it, but also it grows organically. And then I meet all these people. So then like they know me as well. But then also the founders I've met who maybe they're like a pre-seed founder or they were bootstrapping and now they raised some capital. Now they want to spend it on ads it's just this compounding thing that I'm super excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, man, it sounds like such a fun business. Playing poker, playing basketball and stuff.
So
It's really cool. And that kind of leads me into my next thought is like, do you have staff? Are you a one-man band? Because this sounds like very time consuming. Running newsletters, scouring job boards, putting on events. Like it sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it's been mostly me the entire time. I've had a little bit of help from candidly my mom, who's like retired and just like, hey, do you want me to do anything? And like, here, research this venue. Like, very helpful from that. And I just actually brought on a part-time ops person because that exact reason. But I mean, literally, she started last weekend. So this has been all me until a week ago, basically. So the way I view these things always are like, what things are a low lift, what things are high impact, what things do I like to do anyways? Because then that does not work. Like to me, to play basketball, it's like, cool, I know the venue already. I just organize it. I pay for it. Either I charge a ticket fee or I get a sponsor or do both. I want to play anyway. So on a Saturday, for me to go play basketball is like, great, this is fun. Same thing with the hikes, same thing with coffee meetups, all these things. Like if it's a lighter lift, you can do more of them, but doing those consistently, even though sometimes it's like, I'm hosting this thing for like 6 people in some part of the city. It's going to take me 45 minutes to drive to, like, is that worth it or not? And sometimes I have that hesitation of like, maybe it's not worth it, but I keep doing it every time, like something good happens or some connection forms or something else. I'm like, wait, this is the moat. Like people aren't willing to do this thing. To me, being willing to do that, like then having these connections with all these people, it's worth it. And that's how I've been able to manage it with basically one person for the last 4 months, even though I've done 20 something events, at least probably 2 or 3 a week, most weeks, on top of selling sponsors, on top of launching membership, on top of like all these other projects. I do work a lot, to be clear, but also a lot of this is just like, well, I set this business up from the beginning of like, I think this can be a business where I just really have a ton of fun and like, it doesn't feel at all like work. Like from the beginning, that's what I wanted. I'm like, I don't really want to raise capital for it. I don't really want to do any of that, but I think it can compound and be a big business and it'll give me optionality. And because I enjoy most parts of it, like some stuff sucks, but like for the most part, I enjoy all of it. Then it's like, wait, I just get to do this every day. Like that's literally how I feel now, which is great.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I can tell you're an extrovert because I call myself an omnivert. I'm pretty introverted, but I can turn the extrovert thing on and hang out with people. But if I was doing this, I would need a nap after every single one of these events. I guarantee it. My social battery would be burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, I mean, it is also like depending on the event. You know, some are more high energy, some are low key.
Mhm.
Like you do kind of get that because some people in a small group of like 2 or 3 or 4, it's different. Like they would hate the 100-person rooftop mixer.
Right.
I luckily like both of those.
There you go. Yeah. So you built a business to suit your needs. That's great, man. What is so? I think you told me in our initial call that you had already grown to a 6-figure run rate in like 5
Yeah.
or 6 months or something like that. Can you talk about growth of like audience and revenue? Like how just
Yeah.
meta ads? What have you done to grow that thing? Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one I said, I think they had 54 people, the first edition. I think maybe by the second or third, I started running ads. So I want to prove out organically what was the open rate going to be? What was the click rate going to be? I think it was like 60+% from the beginning, and the click rate was super high as well. I'm like, this is interesting because obviously it's a bunch of events. So like they have a lot of links.
Mm-hmm.
So newsletter grew from that, where essentially running meta ads, I think I said it was like 50 cents per subscriber to start with, acquiring subscribers, and now higher because like I've already grown to 5,000 some subscribers. It's now about 5,500 subscribers, and I think my like average customer acquisition cost is maybe like $1.50 with meta ads. So about 1,000 subscribers, let's call it, per month is what I'm adding. So you can obviously back into numbers on what I'm spending, but like to me, because of the way I'm monetizing, it works out. So the lifetime value calculation would work out from that, where it's worth it to spend that money. And also like the bigger you get, it's more leverage for sponsors and everything else. Not only on like a CPM basis, but like just from the, does it look like a thing that's happening? Where it's like you have 5,000 people. It just sounds way different than like when I started and like, oh, I have like 800 subscribers. It's like just a way different thing. And then revenue has grown every month since. So I think it was like started off low in May when I launched. And then it was like 5, 10, 15, 20,000 last 4 months. So it's a top line. So you have expenses obviously, but like the fact that grew that much from even top line in 4 months was like pretty insane to me. And I'm obviously trying to figure out like, okay, how do, nothing's promised, especially with events. A lot of it has been one-off where it's like a one-off deal. Maybe they sponsor a couple things. And I'm getting smarter about now because I have proven out a little bit of it where I can kind of package these deals a bit more where it's like they're sponsoring 2 events plus a month of the newsletter or something like that. And so we'll see how it shakes out here, coming up with October, November, the rest of the year. It might be slower because it's just Q4, it depends. But I'm really kind of not even looking at that as like, I don't care if it dips or not. I'm really focused on, okay, what are sustainable ways that this makes money going forward? And these package deals where I can kind of guarantee that each event's profitable and then guarantee that like I have enough for the events I want to do. That's really what I'm trying to move towards. So I don't know what revenue will shake out October, November, December, but ideally it's that I close 1 or 2 annual deals this month, 1 or 2 annual deals next month, 1 or 2 annual deals December for the next year. And then that kind of just covers everything. That would be ideal. And then you can layer in on top of that membership revenue, layer in more one-off stuff, but you have a big enough base of sponsors to start with where it's like you're already guaranteed 6 figures on top of then obviously like the other events that you sell. But then there's expenses too. So, events can be anywhere from, it can vary a lot in terms of profitability. It just depends on what type of event it is and do you have a venue cost or not? Do you have like how expensive the food and catering is? Or is it an ultra luxury event? Is it premium? Like there's so many variable costs. So it's kind of hard to say profitability wise. Like I've had obviously events that lost money before, like last year. This year, most of I think they've all been either break even or profitable. Some of it's a brand building event where you kind of view the event a little bit differently, but because it was a really good event, brought in great people to the ecosystem that then sponsors want to be a part of, or they want to attend other events in the future. So there's always like calculations, but for the most part, I just try to make every event profitable and the numbers work out from there.
Awesome. That's a good kind of rule to live by. Going back to kind of even when you were talking about like the meta ads or whatever to grow it. You're steeped in this space. You come from this newsletter space, and I consume a lot of content there too. But a lot of folks that are listening are in like traditional local media organizations where maybe they're not as into that space and like they have other operational things going on that they're already underwater with. Do you have any tips there, like literally on like what's the ad look like? Like, what are you focusing on for like metric stuff? Like, just double click on that just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's really good. So Matt McGarry, he has Grow Letter, which is his media company around like helping people with newsletters. I learned a lot from him on the specs and stuff. But because you have Facebook's or Meta's, I guess it's Facebook, their ad library, which is across Instagram and Facebook, you can see examples of exact ads. You just literally search people. So I just search people and see what their ads are doing, and I try to either think of something different, unique, kind of adjust it to my area. I've done that. So a lot of mine are, what works well for me at least so far, is an image that literally just says in the image, it's like LA founders and investors or LA startups, and then has like a free newsletter at the bottom of the image, still in the image. It's like free newsletter for 5,000 people about curated events, whatever happening in Los Angeles, like something like that. And then you can test different copying on top of that. But that's like super basic. And every time I've tested a new ad, it doesn't perform as well. It's like the first one I did, which just happens to be the one that does the best, which is kind of insane. I keep testing new ones every few weeks and just continually comes back to that. But I use the ad library and just look at other local newsletters and see what they're doing for ads. I think the hardest thing for someone who's just getting started is just like literally setting up the pixel and all that. But there's enough tutorials online to be able to do that. But the main idea is just, as long as you're testing copy and creative every kind of like week or two, you just figure out which ones are doing the best and just do a new ad set, test something new, change it again if it didn't perform as well. Like that's kind of the main thing always, and just set a budget and start to play with it. That to me has worked the best. I've seen local newsletters where it's more of a general audience get as low as like 10 cents per email, which is pretty insane. But the smarter business move always is just like, it doesn't matter what your acquisition cost is. It's like, what is the lifetime value, or like, what are you going to make off of that subscriber? Because if it costs you 10 cents to get a subscriber through meta ads, but you can only monetize it for 5 cents, the math doesn't work out.
Right.
So it's more a matter of like, what is the monetization potential of a subscriber? And to me, I've launched this membership a month or two ago. I think I already had renewal start, so it had to be more than a month ago. But it's $29 a month. If people stay on for that, I don't know what the lifetime value of that's going to be eventually, but I've also been able to sell obviously ads against them in terms of events, but also in the newsletter. So there's always different ways to monetize this audience where I can see how me spending $1 on a subscriber can be worth it. That's what everyone else has to think about. So when running meta ads, it's like getting to a large enough base where you can then sell ads against it, or have enough of a base of people where you can sell products and services of your own where that math works out. And you can have a small list and be able to do it if you find creative ways to monetize, whether it be courses or services you're offering. I was just talking, like I said, to Ethan from Awesome Business Review about him doing more like services layered in top of it, or done for you services to like kind of monetize even a smaller list. I think that's super smart too for people to kind of do as well.
Yeah, that's super cool. So running these events, you've put on, I'm not sure how many, you said 2 or 3 a week, so quite a few, and you were already doing this before. For somebody else maybe looking to get into like the event space, is there anything that comes to mind that they should watch out for or keep in mind? Like, are there any horror stories of, I don't know, difficult venues, entitled guests, anything like what are the biggest headaches of running it? Weather, inclement weather, maybe not in LA, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, less in LA, but it does happen. I mean, for context, and I've told someone that's at one of my events recently, who he was pretty surprised by this. The first event I ever did, I had like maybe 6 of my friends at like a rooftop in Los Angeles, and it was like a bunch of founders, like founder friends of mine or past podcast guests, and I was like, I want to do an event. Like, let's just do an event. So we got drinks at the rooftop, like super chill. And in my head, after the first one, I was like, this was fun. Let's do it again somewhere. And like I chose maybe 2 weeks later, some other location. And it just so happened that the next location I chose, everyone that day, people who had signed up for the event, did not come or cancel last minute or something happened. I had 0 attendees, 0. So the second event I ever did, I had 0 people. And I was just sitting there like, everybody canceled or I didn't show. And I was like, this sucks. Like, this was terrible.
Yeah.
I tried to de-risk it by a few things. Starting off with events for sure, just make it an open, free event. You could have it sponsored if you have that leverage, but I just made it like, that's why the hikes are pretty chill, because even if it's 1 or 2 people, it doesn't really matter to me because it's still going to be a good thing. I would start with something that's a low lift for sure, and I would start with those events before I do any paid events. Like, it's just way easier to get people going. Like, for instance, I had this venue I use for a mixer. It's like 40 people ish is roughly like the amount of people you can have. And like, I used to like maybe get like 20 or 30 of paid, this is tickets though, so paid tickets. And now it's like I get 40 or 50, even 60. It's like, see if there's cancellations that are paid tickets, because I've grown up over time. I think if you start with free events that are just an easy, fun thing to do, or even pay yourself and out of pocket to do something that's good to start with, I think that's often a good way to go about it. A good example of that, and this is something I've told people, like, I did a poker event back in March of this year that definitely lost money because I wanted professional dealers, good tables at a good venue, all these things where I was trying to obviously not have it lose money. I was like trying to make it profitable, clearly. But that was before I actually had launched a newsletter. So I launched a newsletter in May. This event was in March. I was just trying to figure out a way to get people there and like reach out one-on-one and everything. Got a really good group of people there from like, let's call it like reporters at like The Verge and like high level media, good founders, like all this stuff. And then one other guy who was there, he ended up coming to 2 other events. And he's the one who we did a poker night at his house in the hills. Because he came to that poker event. He's like, this was a great event. I went to 2 other of your events and those were great. How can I help you? I have this house. I live in the hills. Like, do you want to host something here? I'm like, yes. And he introduced me to the person who has the house in Santa Monica, which is like a $9 million mansion, where I'm hosting another dinner there. So I think it's worth it in the early days. One, start free with some of your stuff just to get people like together, like just purely bring them together, show that you can. And then if you're going to do an event that's like paid out of pocket, it's okay for like 1 or 2 to like do a really good event and pay out of pocket. If you can get the right people in the room, it's worth it, because it to me has led to many good things from that. And I'm only now in the point, after like doing dozens of events last year, I'm like now at this point of being able to, 1, I don't worry about people not showing up to something. It just never happens. And 2, then you have all this like goodwill and trust built up because you've done so many different types of events that people enjoyed, where now it's way easier for sponsors. It's way easier getting tickets for stuff. It's way easier, not easy, but easier. It's way easier now. So people getting started, it's like those 2 things.
You talked before about this, just compounding over time, and you're pretty early days in this, not even a year in.
Super early.
What's the long-term vision, like 5, 6, 10 years down the line? Like, are you scaling this to different cities? You're going to grow it to, you got Sam Altman speaking at the Rose Bowl to a packed crowd, or like what's the ultimate vision?
There's a few different, I think this can go. One in the past, which I very much so still think is going to happen, is multiple cities. I'm kind of figuring out the playbook now of what does it look like from the media side? What does it look like from the events side? And then because I have all these partners that want to serve startups, it's like, okay, are there startups in other cities? Of course. Well, can I work with the same partners to start with and give myself like an advantage by just immediately starting with these partners and then obviously getting other partners in those cities? I think so. So that's one route where it's multiple cities. Let's call it the top like 6 to 8 startup cities. So you're looking at like an SF or New York, Boston, Austin, Miami, like the major cities for startups. I think that eventually, I think we'll do that. That's very much on my mind. Where I want to get LA though, and like going deeper on this vertical here is I think there eventually is going to need to be I call it like a flagship event. So .LA used to be here in Los Angeles. It still is technically, but they had raised like $4 million from a bunch of VCs in the city. They were covering the media side of it, so very more traditional journalism. And they did a kind of staple flagship event, their own summit every year. I love the idea of that as like a massive brand building push, get all like the best founders and investors together, leverage that for the rest of the year and the other events you do. I think that makes a ton of sense. So I think I'll eventually have like a annual summit type of thing. And the other thing is like layering in these interesting businesses off of the newsletter itself. One example being a recruiting company. I have all these founders on the list. I have all these operators on the list. I have investors who have portfolio companies. There should be a recruiting component of this where I am bringing those people together to, if you want to build a startup in Los Angeles with talent living in Los Angeles, this should be the place to do that. The LA grind should be the place to just like, you can get connected that way. Obviously, if you want to hire remote and all of that, like there's other recruiting companies, but I think there's like an LA focused recruiting company component that I very much think is going to happen. And I teased it online recently and had like a dozen recruiters reach out about partnering up. So I think that will happen. So when I think of the future, I think that's what I am interested in, where the media piece of it grows, where it's like, instead of the 5,500 people now, it's like 100,000 plus. The events piece is more operationalized, both with other people leading the events besides me, but also having bigger tentpole events and being able to have big sponsors to push that, to pull it off. And then also having this like recruiting company. You could have like a design firm. You could have all these different service-based businesses where it's like some of the advertisers, instead of them doing it, it's just my company. Like that does make sense to me. I think that's like the playbook for a city. And then stamping out to other cities. SF is a whole different ballgame. They already have so many events that are free, posted on by VCs and all these startups. So it's a different game. New York's also a different game. Austin's a different game. But I do think there's like this version of community first, curating events, leveraging media, being smart about how you monetize and just slowly growing into it. I think that's kind of the game plan long term.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you picked a good place to start. Like you said, LA is this big startup city. It's funny, I don't think of that in my head, mostly because overshadowed by Hollywood and the shadow of the Bay Area, just north of there, like the Mecca or whatever. But there's a lot of room, and even like the tier 2, tier 3 cities. I was on a road trip with my family. We came back through Salt Lake, and like the entire south side of that town is dotted with brand new buildings with like internet companies on the side. I was shocked. I was like looking them up. My wife was driving. I was like, what is that? What is? I felt like the show Silicon Valley. I'm like, what is Hooli? What is this? Like all these different things.
Well, yeah, no, I think this model can be stamped out to other cities because every city has businesses, right? Like even if it's not startups, you could say it's just like business, not be your vertical, and like it's the same thing. But it just takes someone like extroverted to be able to do the events. You don't have to be extroverted; it's just helpful because you'll enjoy it more. But also then like this combination of the two of like media plus that, people are very hungry for in-person connection. So like it's, to me, in the age of AI, it's a no-brainer that people want to get together even more. So I just think it's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you could go to Houston and do the energy industry. You could go to Omaha and do agriculture. Like you could do. It's a big country. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and you kind of got my shiny object syndrome going when you were talking about all the directions you could take. I'm like, oh yeah, recruiting. Oh yeah, you could do this. So it's cool, man. It's exciting stuff. So I've gone through all my questions. Where can people find you online? Where do you want me to link to in the show notes or anything? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I mean, basically like the LA Grind is the main thing right now. So the LAgrind.com is the core piece of where I find everything. So if people are interested in LA, you want to see that, obviously, they can check out the past editions. I have my 15-minute serendipity calls in every newsletter at the end. It's like book a call with me. I make it very easy for people to reach out if they want to. And obviously you can just reply the email to get in touch with me. That's on purpose. So I have 4 slots every week. It's an hour long. So 4 15-minute slots. And I meet the most interesting people from that. And you're bound to get some wacky situations. But to me, it's worth it to have maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 8 ends up being ooh, that call was meh, not great. But the good ones kind of make up for it. And so that's the LAgrind.com is where to find me. It's the easiest place. And then from there, I link to all my LinkedIn, and it's my core kind of social right now. And everything else is kind of from there.
Cool. Yeah, I'll dig all that up and I'll link to it. If you're listening, just scroll down. You can click out from there. Justin, thank you very much, man. This was awesome. Like last time we talked, I'm gonna have to do a little meditation and be like, stay focused, work on your business, don't go
stay in your lane.
Yeah, this wouldn't work where I'm in too small an area anyway to do this exact model, but still, you gave me ideas.
Love it.
Cool,
Thanks for
man.
having
Well,
me, Paul.
yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Have a good day.